All right, I'm very pleased to be hosting this Q&A with a bunch of buddies of mine from Terrifier 3. My name's Johnny Abrahams, and let's bring out our special guests in no particular order. Let's bring out Stephen Lamorte, director of Screamboat. For Stephen, Amy Schumacher, who might be the lead one, and now Screamboat. Allison Pittel. Some guy named David Howard Thonton. I think Screamboat's his first movie, I'm not sure. Let's get Kailey Hyman now. Screamboat. Many, many others. Can't forget the very special Michael Leavy. Director of Screamboat. Are you okay?
Yeah, it's playing.
He's drinking on the job, though.
No, that's wrong.
So loud.
We're just drinking the book. Everybody's here, right?
Yes.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, we'll see.
So congratulations are in order, first off. I know how big a deal it is to make a movie, let alone have it come out, and it's very exciting. And I, for one, am very excited to see the movie. Are you all excited to see it?
Oh, yeah.
At 11 o'clock to see the movie? Yeah! All right. See, I'm feeling a buzz. I'm feeling an energy about the movie. Let's start out with, what is it like to make and work on indie horror films? Like, you know, to stay in that world, and, you know, it's a very specific world, and I feel like with the success of Terrifier and some other stuff, like, it's sort of crossing over and getting pushed over, but you know, it's a very specific world, and it's got a very specific fan base, and they're very enthusiastic and they love it. And so maybe you could talk about that a little bit. Yeah.
Sure. What I think is really cool about indie horror, and we all work on independent horror films, not just Screamboat, not just Terrifier, Scream, the Mean One, is that it really is driven by fans, and there is something about, I love that we're getting more horror movies in theaters nowadays than we ever have, because you folks are coming out and seeing it, which is great. But I do think there is something about a big budget or like a studio horror film where sometimes it's a little too polished or a little too sanitized, or it doesn't quite fit the core ethos of what made slashers awesome in the 80s and what made even the classic horror films of the 40s and 50s really stand out. It was the fact that they were sort of grungy and edgy, and I don't know, there's something about corporate punk rock that I'm not really into. So I think that making indie horror films is the way horror films are supposed to be made, because that's what makes them special.
I agree. I think the need for scrappiness is part of what makes them have a soul. Sort of like you're saying, the corporate thing is too sanitized at the end of the day, and too many cooks in the kitchen. That's another thing I know from personal experience. It's like, I sometimes wonder if some of those movies could ever be made on a big grand studio level, because there's just going to be too much micromanaging, and some of the greatest things in these films will never happen because the studio will mix it. Anyway, that's enough about that. Amy, you worked on The Mean One,
Yeah.
and now this, and what is your sort of feelings about indie horror and all that stuff, and maybe you can talk a little bit to that and to Screamboat and all that.
Yeah, sure. We learned a lot of lessons on The Mean One, and getting to produce and also play a character in The Mean One. We took what we learned, we collaborated with our friends and Fuzz on the Lens and people we work with a lot, and leveled everything up for Screamboat. And so it was really exciting to see how, when we listened to each other, we listened to what the fans wanted, we could do bigger and gorier and scarier and funny things with just having a little bit more money, a little bit more help, And so as an actor, it made my life easier as an actor-producer. I got to really play alongside some other amazing actors, and we got to explore and be creative and have just like an even better time with it.
That's awesome. That's awesome. My next question was going to be, who has all worked on what together? Because I know everybody's worked on a certain combination of things, so maybe we can tell everybody out here, like, Mike, yeah, go ahead.
It's funny, I work with like everybody here on like separate, different things across my life. I went to school, high school, with Stephen Lamorte in Staten Island, an old boys high school, where we filmed Terrifier 2. That was Sienna and Brooke and Allie's school, and also Jonathan's school where the opossum was behind and Felissa Rose. What's going on? That was Monsignor Farrell High School, so we went to school there. The shower scene in part 3 for Terrifier 3. Yeah.
They really let us come to your school.
They let us come to, yeah. Well, the thing is this, it's a Catholic school, and we don't let them know what we're shooting. And luckily, they'll never go see the movie. So we worked well, we went to school, like I said, with that, and then we also worked on a few earlier projects. That One Stop Away was a movie we did, and then worked with Allison on Stream. David was on Stream and Terrifier, and Terrifier 2, Terrifier 3. So I was lucky enough to work with all of these people on multiple different projects simultaneously at different points in my life. So yeah,
That's awesome. That's
and
awesome.
David is in all of the movies. Just mentioned.
Yes. This guy, David, and we'll get to him in a second.
But we never let him talk, though. We won't. That's the one here. We keep teasing that carrot. So can I talk in this one? And we're like, maybe the next one, Dave. Come back for the sequel and we'll talk about it.
I do need to say this on Dave's behalf. He is the best at accents and voiceover work. It's crazy no one lets him talk. He could do any ask him an accent.
You know why?
Why?
That happens. It's because Dave talks so much outside of the movies that this is the only way to get him to shush. So we just.
I heard a rumor that you're going to talk at Terrifier 4. Is that true?
I'm going to have a huge hour-long
monologue, right? Like the end of Pearl. It's going to be like the end of Pearl.
Very Shakespearean.
Yeah. Beautiful.
Yes, it was the best of times.
I can't wait for
Worst
that.
of times.
And he's not allowed to talk as Steamboat Willie because Mickey Mouse is not in the public domain. So
He is more now, though.
he is more. That's right. He's more now than he was before. And I figure the longer we wait, the more stuff David's going to be allowed to do, which is great. But every time he puts the suit on, he can't help but do the voice. And every time he says it, I'm like, David, we are all going to Disney jail. You cannot. You got to stop speaking in that. Oh boy! So yeah, we won't. We literally can't. We're like, please, you have to stop talking. For the love of God.
A real gag order, as they say. Yeah. Cool. Allison, how did you get involved with all these Jokers, and what's your experiences been like?
Yeah, so I actually auditioned for a project maybe 4 years ago. It was a proof of concept, and I remember it was the height of COVID, and part of the audition, they were like, oh, we're involved in Terrifier, but this was before Terrifier 2, or it was being filmed at the time, and I was like, oh, I wonder what that's about. And then I watched it and I was like, oh my God, what is this? And I do remember that audition a couple years ago. They wanted me to scream, and it didn't quite register over the Zoom. And that was one memory I have of that. But I've been involved with them since, and I've done Stream in this project, and they are, honest to God, they're so funny. It's hard to get anything done around them because I say this a lot to describe them, but it's as if someone wrote lines for them to say to each other. That's how witty they are, and it's constant bah, 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 bah. It's clear that they have a very fun, close relationship, and it's been an absolute dream to work with them. They're amazing, and so much fun.
That's awesome. David?
Yes.
There's also a vocal range that he
some giggling over there.
He can be falsetto, he can be soprano, mezzo soprano. You've grown with these guys, I think, and like I met you, I don't know how many years ago in New Jersey, and I've watched you guys grow, and obviously the Terrifier franchise tries to grow, but like I wonder, it's a cool thing to be part of a repertoire if you're an actor. And like, I wondered if you could talk a little bit about what that's like, getting to grow with these guys and,
Oh yeah, that's what's been kind of cool about this. Is I've been working with like this core group of people for like the past decade now. When I first started doing Terrifier 1, because Mike came in when we came back, especially for reshoots and everything like that. That's when the Fuzz guys came in, and so it's like I've just kind of like more people have just become part of our little core group over the years, and now they're all part of it. It's just like because we just keep on picking up more people. It's like we're almost starting our own little studio system, which is pretty cool in a lot of ways. It's kind of wild. I've worked with every single person on this stage in more than just one film. I was like, we even did like the Night of the Living Dead 2 proof of concept thing. I was a fat zombie coming out of the ocean. And I was a big fat suit. It was really cool. Yeah, I got stuck in the water though, because like that costume like filled up with so much water. It was like just absorbed it all, and I couldn't stand up at one point.
It was all foam.
Yeah, it was all foam. Yeah.
Wow,
Yeah.
heavy.
It's like the photos that I think are still on my Instagram page. It did not look like it was like 4 or 5 hours of makeup.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Really cool.
Where were you guys? Like the Jersey Shore or something? What?
It was, Long Island.
Long Island?
Yeah,
Nice.
yeah, out in the water. They had a bunch of us zombies coming out. Yeah.
Tip of Long Island, like the farthest corner.
Yeah, near,
Like out by Montauk or something? Yeah, nice. Let's give it up for Long Island, y'all. I know a lot of you are from Long Island, and
Yeah, but it's been cool. Like I think because of like we're so used to working with each other, so like I think we can get more accomplished in a lot of those things because we're all so comfortable with each other. So we know we can push things further than a lot of people are, willing to go in other things because there's that like comfort level you have to have with people before you can really go crazy with some things. But I personally feel I can just go crazy and mess with things and not have to worry about any like blowback or anything like that because I'm like, oh yeah, these guys are used to me.
yeah, exactly. I mean, I know for me, like I knew you guys before, but then, when I showed up on the set for Terrifier 3, I didn't know what to expect. And, when you work on indie movies, any movies really, the sets can be very chaotic and stressful, and there can be an energy there that's not the most fun. And I was like shocked because it really is like a family, and it's so mellow. And, I was like, I couldn't believe how mellow and relaxed the set was. I was like, really? They're like, yeah, whatever, just gonna, mess with some cobwebs for a second. Like an hour later, they're like, yeah, come up, let's do a little thing. And I was like, this is great. Like, this is just awesome. So
It was mellow because we were shooting on the top of the floor, and Phil Falcone couldn't come up the stairs. So he stayed downstairs, and I remember he said, he's texting me and saying, we're done in 5 minutes. We're done in 2 minutes. We're done. And I looked at David. He goes, just mute the phone. He can't come up here. And we shot an extra 2 hours. I'm like, I didn't see the phone. I don't know. He was so mad because he's having like knee problems.
Oh my God.
We were like 6 flights up.
You're so mean.
And we were shooting. And then I come downstairs. I go to Phil. I tried. I don't know.
He hobbled up there at one point and was like, what the fuck?
yeah. I just remember coming down and he had a monitor down there and he was like,
But upstairs we're like listening to Yacht Rock, Damien Love.
It
was so, no wonder it took us like hours.
Do you find, Stephen, that because you grew up together and stuff, there's a shorthand and that it sort of lends itself to being a little less sort of stressful or anxiety-ridden, the process of making a film? Because you know everybody, or is it?
It is. It definitely gets easier because, I mean, been telling the same stupid jokes since we were 14. I mean, like nothing has really changed other than, I mean, I've tried to tone my language down a little bit. These guys seem to have gone backwards in terms of maturity.
He went to LA, we're in New York.
Right. I went to Hollywood and got married, and that's, yeah. But no, it's great, and, you know, it's really cool, too, to you know, we've done lots of other projects, and I would come to New York, I would, you know, shoot in, you know, I'd work with Buzz on the Lens, and we'd make commercials, and, you know, we'd do other things, and we just kept saying, man, we have to collaborate on something. So to be able to pop in and see the awesome folks that they've picked up, but then be able to sort of trade back and forth. You know, I've been doing a lot of post-heavy stuff for a while, and starting to get into the really heavy gore stuff. You know, you go to work with the Buzz on the Lens team, and I'm like, okay, so we're going to do this big bloody gore gag. Is everybody ready? And I look at you know, Steve Delasala and Jamie and Ilya and everybody, and they have a plastic tarp behind the camera. They're like, we're good, bring it on, spray the camera. So it's really cool to be able to connect in an old way, and then to sort of learn from each other and grow. And, you know, sometimes I kind of drive them crazy with the way that I shoot, because I like to shoot options so I can sculpt the comedy in the edit. And sometimes I'm like, these two things aren't going to cut. And Mike helped us when we're shooting the footage, and, you know, with poor Kailey, I'm like, Kailey, do it like this and do it like that, and then I'm making her do all these crazy improvs, and they're like, this is never going to cut, what are you doing? And I'm like, well, I'm only going to use one, so it'll cut together just fine. So do this with me, Kailey, and also we need you to do a monologue right now. And then she did it, so it's great. Working with the same people it's like a dream. It's great.
Awesome. And that's a good segue for Kailey. Kailey, you've worked on a few projects with these Jokers, and how did that all come to be? And, you know, were you a horror person before, and, you know, all that stuff?
Yeah, I do love horror movies. My genre that I watched with my brother growing up was like ghost, sort of. It's like different in the sense. So getting into the gore horror world was definitely like the best education I could possibly get on Terrifier 2. It was great. I had the audition. It came through Actors Access, I think. Do you still use that when you audition? Okay.
I mean, depends on we got
the character. Yeah, I know they did like a. Yes, the casting director for 3. It's different. We had this guy
Jason,
for 2.
really, yeah.
Yes. So we got that audition. I think I auditioned for that. Did I audition for Sienna? I can't remember.
I think you did.
I remember. Yeah, I did.
And we were like,
2.
oh, try her up. And then,
yes, and then I just remember screaming in my Brooklyn apartment and no one caring. Like, I was like, oh my God, this is gonna be bad, but here I go. Like, my neighbors are gonna call the cops. They're gonna care. Nobody cared. Nobody cared. I was like banging on the wall, screaming. It was fine though. It was the best time, clearly, because now we're all together. You know, what I really love about horror movies is the fan base, is the fact that, you know, no other movie that you make are you able to like see your friends multiple times a year and hang out again. Yeah. It's the craziest, like, most blessing experience of all. Yeah, we were just in Vegas. It's so fun.
Yeah, it's awesome. It
Yeah.
really is. It's so fun.
I can remember Kailey.
This is the best one. I think this is the good one.
Pass
the rice.
I can remember Kailey's audition for Screamboat.
In an undisclosed role, by the way.
Yes. Yes. Well, right. But Kailey's undisclosed role in Screamboat, she was the only one in the audition who I think you auditioned on the floor, right? I think you were like sitting on the floor, leaned against the wall, and really created the world around her. And she's the only one for that character who did that. And I think we watched so many auditions for that character, but we watched a few seconds of her audition, we're like, oh, she's it. And so then we had to build her friend group around her, is what we did.
That's why I never heard back on my team for that.
Yeah, you did, because you're on the floor.
You didn't get her, man. That's well,
gotta get on
now
the
I
floor,
know. Next
man.
time, I'm
That's my
stealing your
secret.
routine. I wanted to ask you briefly about what were your inspirations for Screamboat. I mean, obviously, we know the Steamboat Willie thing and all that, but what other films did you think about or draw inspiration from when you were making it?
Yeah, I mean, I've always loved puppet movies, right? I've always loved, like, horror comedies. So
say Master of the Puppets is like
Master of Puppets for sure. But I mean, even like the original Chucky Child's Play 2 is one of my favorites. But I love a horror flick that leads into the comedy. So not just like Leprechaun, but even just like Gremlins, the fact that you have these like preposterous monsters doing outrageous things. Just horror films that you can watch that are like a fun thrill ride. Like I love the Brendan Fraser Mummy, like who doesn't, right? And but I also love the blood, like in Terrifier 3, and putting somebody into the blender, like in Gremlins. So I mean, like all of those little things sort of contributed to the film that we were making, and really trying to make like a fun throwback film that has like a lot of practical effects, but isn't afraid to like get up and let people talk and do the jokes and just sort of have fun with them.
That's awesome. I agree. I've always been a fan of the kind of certainly practical effects, but practical puppet films as well. When you start to animate things, like, some of the newer Star Wars films, like, I don't love the CGI puppet work as much. They're not even puppets really at that point, are they? They're just animated, right? So it takes a lot to not only make a film, a feature film, but certainly get it out there and get people to come see it. So I wondered if you could kind of tell us, what can fans do to support? I mean, I know a lot of it relies on the fans and the fan base for any of the movies we talked about tonight, but certainly, what are some things that people can do specifically for Screamboat?
This is our third fan screening. We're doing it tonight, the third one. And we are doing it because we know that audiences like you guys are the ones who want to go and tell their friends and be some of the first to know. And that's exactly what we need, because we don't have the big studio budget marketing spend. We don't have the ability to make ads that are going to go far and wide or trailers on everything. So we need people like you guys to help us spread the word and see the movie and then bring a friend to the theater. We start with what is in select theaters run of our movie, which obviously is not by our choice, but the way that we can change that and get further and wider is if the theaters understand that people want to come see this kind of stuff. They want to come see something different. Our movie, Screamboat is a theatrical experience. It's designed to be seen big and loud and see all his amazing reactions through his crazy makeup and hear the amazing sound for it. So we need it to be a theatrical experience. So we just need you guys to follow us on social media, tell your friends, tell people, come support the theater. If you don't see it at your theater, call them and tell them you'd love to see it, available there.
And the pre-sales are super important. I just want to say that because there's going to be pre-sales that are going to come out. And this is something, again, as you learn as you go. With Terrifier, obviously, look what happened. It expanded and expanded and expanded because of what you guys did, because of what the fan base did. And now look what's going on in the world. So with Screamboat, you don't usually think beforehand like, oh, you think the day of, I'm going to go get a ticket today and, decide to see Screamboat. But it might not be there the next day. It might not be there the next week. So it is super important that as soon as this thing comes out, for you guys to jump online, try to figure it out, tell a friend, tell family members, drag them to the theaters, because I didn't realize this, we didn't realize this when we did Stream. They based everything on extension on pre-sales, which is wild. And the movie did great in the theater run, but guess what? It was already decided after those first couple of days they weren't going to extend it. Only a few theaters did because of based on the pre-sales, which is crazy because what we do is all word of mouth. There's no marketing. There's none of that. It's see the movie. It's a good movie. Talk about it, and then come see it after that. Spread. So with Terrifier, we got lucky because obviously it was a sequel, and it was post-COVID, and there were so many things that happened. It's lightning in a bottle. It doesn't happen. And it happened. So with Screamboat, again, I can't stress it enough. As soon as those pre-sales are released, get them. Because that's what's going to keep the movie in the theaters, that's what's going to extend the movie in the theaters, and that's what's going to really make this thing be able to expand to so many more people. So we need your help, and we appreciate you guys.
That's the pre-sale sound effect. Those are sounds charging on your credit cards. Awesome. Awesome. So I think maybe we should hear from the fans because they're the most important here. And I'm sure more than a few of you have some questions. So my man is back there with a microphone. No? Gentleman in the baseball hat?
That's not me.
Okay.
We'll just toss it here. We actually have one other guest who's joining us, Jaron, who's also in the film.
Oh, where is he?
He owns a watch. When it doesn't work, there he is. He made it.
Jaron, how did you get involved with this project before I start taking Q&As?
I was trying to be low key, but you put me on the spot here. I got the.
We gotta hear your voice.
Sorry.
Make it good.
But I got the audition from my manager, and I didn't know what the hell I was getting into when I started this journey.
Yeah.
And I came in to the office that Amy and Steve had, and still didn't know what was going on. So it was like, okay, but it through and through was just a great experience getting on that boat and just seeing everything matriculate and come together was awesome. Like we all built like a family. I met David, I think once or twice.
Yeah.
I think we met a few times, and it just everyone just gelled, and it was like a great team and bonding experience. So these guys are like family. And,
That's awesome.
Steven, he just.
Sorry, I don't understand.
Yeah. I didn't understand either. Like, Steven, the way he shoots is just like, I just remember being on the boat sweating, and I'm like, I'm just pouring sweat. And he's like, all right, we'll use that. And it's just like, so he makes light of every situation. If you have problems, he turns it into a positive. So I mean, that's amazing.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
All right, cool. Let's take some Q&As. Grab that mic, and I'll come around. So, raise your hand if you have a question.
And this is going to be spoiler free. So if you're asking a question, we're going to do our best not to spoil it, because obviously most people haven't seen the film yet.
Sure, go for it.
So we'll be as helpful but vague as possible.
Yeah, my question for David is, how do you get into character? It's like, do you turn it on or off?
Is this the good one? Okay. I'll make it work.
Yes.
For this one, because I approach every character differently, and I actually have a previous experience playing a Mickey-ish character from like 30 years ago. One of my first starting roles, I played Mickey in Mickey's Christmas Carol in my middle school. So I was like, I can already do this. And so when they approached me, I was like, this is great. This is like full circle for me. So I'm like, okay, but he's killer. I'm like, I'm used to playing a killer now too. So I'm like, okay, I could probably just blend these two together and have some fun with it. Especially after I read the script, it's like, this script's hysterical. I love this because it also made me think of Gremlins in a lot of weird ways, because he's just this little guy who running around, he's killing people on his boat in very Gremlinish, like crazy ways. So I was like, I know exactly how to approach this. And of course, for this one, I don't talk again, but there are different ways to communicate, and so that was a fun challenge too in itself. So I had to practice whistling a lot. So that was fun. And occasionally just little sounds would come out of me too. So, I was like, careful. That's fine. It's fine because he makes little sounds in Steamboat Willie, and so I was like, yeah, we can do that. But
He does it to me on purpose. It's okay.
I'd love to.
Questions over here? Raise your hand.
So my question is actually about Buzz on the Lens, like as a whole. I know you guys are a smaller, like production company. Will you ever, like in the future, take like internships and stuff like some of the bigger production companies do?
Yeah, no, we're always looking to work with people, and we have done internships before, and it's just reach out to us. We're very accessible on social media, and email, and contact and stuff like that. And it just depends on, because we are so small, and we're not always working on projects to where we need interns at the moment. For shooting, it's like, that's easy. Yeah, we're shooting. Come down, come be a PA, come stand by the monitor, learn this, learn that, whatever we have going on. So it really just depends on timing a lot, because again, when you're smaller, you're kind of working on the same project for a really long time. And then what was the second part? Working with bigger studios?
Well, no, I was just saying, like, in comparison with bigger studios, would you do intern programs like they have? But you answered.
Yes. So the answer is yes. Yes, we will. Just reach out and email us and keep in touch and follow along with what we're doing. Sure.
Could you walk us through the process of you having a character with no dialogue? What goes into the script and the directing versus what you just allow the actor to do in that kind of scene?
Allow. I don't allow David to do anything. Because he's bolted into clown shoes, so he can't go that far. And if he doesn't take direction right, he walks up to the edge of the stage. I'm like, a little closer, David. A little closer.
I can't see anything, so I'm like, okay.
Yeah, he's got these huge ears, but you forget that they don't work. So you're trying. I'm like, David. He's like, what? Right. They're not real. So yeah, I mean, it's it starts with what we want the character to do, right? I mean, you can approach a script or a story a lot of different ways, but I kind of like to treat the kills and like an action set piece, almost like a musical, right? And this one sort of is because he communicates musically because he's not allowed to talk. So a lot of times it starts with what we want the character to do, and then once we start working with the awesome team at Quantum Creations Effects who designed the puppet that's David stand-in as well as his suit, then we start learning what are the things that we can do, whether it's with the puppet or with David in the suit. And then there comes to when you're on set and we start learning, like, can he pick things up? Can he walk from here to there? I mean, we had sort of a Jaws moment on set with David's body double, the little puppet, where we had tested it, we knew it walked, we knew it moved, and then we're like, oh, there's, for reasons I won't get into, there's trash and water on the ground. So we're like, okay, well, so the mouse walks from point A to point B, and it turns out the puppet can't walk in water. And we had no idea that, our puppet couldn't walk on water, because I know David can walk on water. and so it was just little things like that evolved in the production, where every day we're shooting something different. Sometimes we have to take sort of a unique approach to what the physical limitations of practical filmmaking are, because we can't we'll just fix it later. Like, no, we have to get it now. And then the great benefit of having both an amazing performer in David and all the things he can do and the ways he can move the makeup and manipulate the nose. I mean, we don't have like servers and cables and wires and stuff. When it's him, I mean, it's him. It's really him. But then the other side of it is the other actors who have to make you believe that they're genuinely scared. If they're working with a puppet, or if it's David Stanton, or David's 50 feet back to make him look really small, and I'm like, you have to look a little higher. Okay, that's where he is. And action. I mean, all of it has to come together. Making a movie is like a jigsaw puzzle. Doing a movie where your creature is 3 feet tall is like making a jigsaw puzzle and half the pieces aren't colored in. So it really requires just so much commitment from everyone on the team to either trust us or trust David or just commit to it full force. And when it all comes together, it's seamless. But it takes a lot of work and a lot of patience from a lot of really talented people.
Awesome. I think I had any questions in this room? You have a question.
So this question's kind of for everybody. What was your first reaction when you got the call that you get to murder Code Mickey?
Who?
Everybody.
We don't have there's no Mickey in this movie. Still go away.
Steve Vogel.
That's right. Mass lives in Orlando. Our character's Steve Vogel.
Honestly, I was a bit taken back because I just was like, well, what? And obviously, everyone had their opinions on some of the copyrights going out and everything with all the other films that every other person was trying to make, and those were no shades of those films, but those to me just seemed like something of the moment. But when I got involved with this, it just felt like, and I read the script, and I really had to sit down with Amy and Steven, and it was more than just doing something that's slapstick. It was something to actually honor Disney in a way. And I was like, wow, like that is a really good twist, So I was nervous at first because I'm like, oh man, like I had already worked with Disney. And I was like, man, they may not call me back after So, but all that fear went away when I worked with some of these guys, and I think, it definitely is something that I hope you all look forward to.
You know, I was most, you know, when you make a movie, right, there's certain things that get easier as it goes along. It's like, oh, we're going to do practical effects and there's going to be a lot of blood. Yeah, sure, check. We've done that like now 100 times. Oh, David's going to be in it. Oh, great, he's going to deliver. You know, and all those things. But the thing that scared me the most is when Steven said, you know, and he's 3 feet tall. And then you start to think, oh, and we're going to do it practically and in camera. And I remember a lot of conversations with Amy and Steven and Steve Delasala, who's in the back at our TP, of like, you know, this forced perspective and how we're going to do that. And like, that was a challenge for all of us, something that we've never done before. And it was just like, if this doesn't work, this whole thing is screwed. It's like everything was like in on this. And it was like, yeah, fine, we got the movie. Yeah, we got the act. Kailey's on. Great. It sounds awesome. It's like, you know, David's going to look awesome. And it's like, but how's he going to be 3 feet tall? Like, how is this going to come together? And through a lot of research, and through Amy and Steven, and you know, it really all came together. And that was like the most magical thing to see happen. And I was at the first screen we did with Vegas, and I remember leaning over to Dave and Amy and saying, holy shit, this is working. Like, it came together. And that's what we want everybody to see and experience. It's a fun movie, you know what I mean? Like, a lot of people just think it's going to be this crazy horror slasher, and obviously it's got the gore, and it's got, you know, the kills, and it's got the horror, but it is a funny, fun movie, you know what I mean? It's a comedy, really, too, at its roots, so I'm excited to see what everybody thinks tonight.
Yeah, it like, has my two favorite things, horror and comedy, completely together, so I loved it. I love getting to work with these guys again, and I love Steve as a director. He really, I mean, let me be ridiculous and do my improv, and even when like everybody knew that was not making it in the film, like, he let me go. You didn't call a cut. You were like, I'm waiting so she's done. I don't know. So it was great. It was the best experience, and I'm so excited for everybody to see it.
Yeah, I was really thrilled. I mean, I knew about the film probably before most people did anyway, because we had been talking about it for like a year before, I think. And I was like, this is before I even saw a script or anything like that. They just told me the idea, and I'm like, oh my God, that sounds amazing. And then that's what I told them about my history, because like, I got to do this just for that full circle moment. But I love that idea. Now we're going to make you tiny. I'm like, oh, that's going to be fun. Because I love old school practical effects, like, you know, forced perspective and stuff like that. I like, one of my favorite movies as a kid was Honey, I Shrunk the Kids. And I love how they, you know, had to build giant props and stuff like that. And or like, you know, the Lord of the Rings movies where, you know, they had to do the forced perspective with, you know, with the dwarves and the hobbits with everybody else. And we're going to be incorporating that kind of technology. Also with puppets. I'm like, there's a puppet in this. There's a puppet in me. This is so cool. I love this. I love this. I love this. So I was totally on board. Then I read the script. I'm like, oh my gosh, because I'm a huge Disney fan myself, and this thing has so much love to the company and the films and my childhood. There's so many little Easter eggs throughout. It's like that's part of the fun of watching this. Is like, what are all the Easter eggs? What are all the references? Because it's not just referencing Disney films, it's referencing the company itself in a lot of ways, and it's a huge love letter to that brand. And I was sold even more on that. And it's like then the story that's involved, and I was like, oh my gosh, this could have been just one of those other type of like movies they've been doing recently, where it's just like, okay, we're just going to slap this character in this and blah blah blah. But no, there's actually a real story going on, and it makes sense in this crazy little world that it's in. And there's a lot of heart in it. It's like, this is good. This is a really good script. I have to do this. It's absolutely, I can't wait to do it. I was thrilled, and it was a whole new experience for me, because I wasn't on set with everybody else. Everybody else filmed, and I came in LA on the soundstage and did all this stuff in like 4 days. And I had, you know, some of the actors came in because we had to do some forced perspective, but, you know, still they weren't right up next to me acting with me. They were like far away from me, you know, they like this. But it was a fun new experience for me. So it's another thing I can add to my repertoire of things I've done. So and it was just fun working with this team again, because we had fun in the main one. So it's like, I'm very grateful for it all.
Yeah, I'm also reading the script, and especially in the audition, before knowing the full context, was like, how the hell are they going to pull this off? It's so wild, and learning, meeting the Thonton guys and learning about how the puppet works, it was really, really beautiful. I love to describe it as it's a beautiful piece of art, as well as being such a zany, fun character. It's gorgeous, and the art behind it is really there, and it just feels like you can really reach out and almost feel it, which I love about this film. It is not, as Stephen was saying, it relies on that kind of old school way of working with more tactile materials and working in the room with these energies. And then at the chemistry read, it was also this level of, oh, this is actually happening to these people. How do we keep this grounded and emotional, as well as very fun and funny? And the comedy, I do think, comes out in this tension between what's driving these characters and their relationships and their motivations and the heart that goes into it. And then, and the guy just sells it. I mean, it's a great sort of tension there between that. So.
I was lucky enough to read all the iterations of the script, from the very original one to what we ended up shooting, which were pretty vastly different. But because of that, I was really familiar with all of the characters, and Stephen and I did the casting on this. So every time we auditioned somebody and we locked in that they were right, it felt so right. Like, we could see the movie coming together. I mean, even when Jared came in, Jared was another one like Kailey, where we knew immediately he was the character, and then we auditioned his little buddy. So he auditioned with all the little buddies, so we could find their pairing, and we knew immediately. So that was a really fun part of the experience, because we knew the characters so well.
And I think the only thing I could add, because obviously I threw this at them, is it still surprises me that I was allowed to even make this movie. I mean, that's just a fact. I mean, from not just the concept that this character would be allowed to go into the public domain and be something we can play and have fun with, but also the idea that all of these crazy people would read the zaniness that's in the script. And for those of you that you saw Terrifier 3 or saw Peter Pan or The Substance, the trailer that's not out yet has played and has some of the crazier things that are in the movie, like teased. So once you see it, you'll understand it. There's some things in the script where I was like, and then we're going to do this. And they're like, okay, write it down. I need to oversize that. I'm like, and then we're going to do this. And they're like, I guess we got to do it. We got to do it. And then we're sitting in meetings having conversations, the anatomical conversations that, again, will make sense once you've seen the film. And I'm like, there's no way they're going to let me do this. And they're like, it's in the script, so we brought it. Do you want this one or do you want this one? So, I mean, I know it's a vague answer, but it's still really wild that they let us make this film. And, when you're doing something crazy with something that you love, something you're connected with, you have nostalgia for, it's really very exciting. It's one thing to make a fan film or a web video or social media, whatever, but we got to make the movie. We got to make the Steamboat Willie horror film. And we're on set and we're watching it come to life and we're seeing it in the monitor and everyone's looking at it and like, man, no one let us do this. We decided we were going to do it. We empowered ourselves to do it, and now it's here and it's going to be in theaters, and that's the most unbelievable thing to me, for sure.
That's awesome. Round of applause. Anybody else have questions? Okay.
All right, so we've got Mean One, and now we've got Screamboat. What is a dream IP you'd love to turn into a horror movie?
Oh, dream IP. That's a good one. I know, Mike, you really want to do Leprechaun, right?
It's already a horror, though.
Yeah. Oh, that's true. I actually have something I've always really, really wanted to do, and it was a question someone threw before, and I'm going to hold on to that, is it's not just a horror thing, but it's a Disney horror thing. There was a ride in the 90s called Extraterrestrial, where they, Disney for some reason decided they wanted to do an Alien knockoff that was genuinely horrifying, where they strapped people into a dark room and made it seem like there was a monster.
I remember that. That was
it was crazy.
It was awesome.
I was like,
it was 9. The alien would drool on you. You're just like,
yeah, and you felt him walking around, and I'm like, I'm in just like absolutely horrified, and I was like, this is a terrible idea. Why would they make this? Now I'm like, this is a great idea. Why don't we make this? So yeah, if I could do that, I mean, definitely, I don't have any original ideas at all, so I really only like adapting things that already exist, and I'm like, that's a pretty bad idea that I think could be super fun.
Well, a fun one. I've seen some iterations of this. Doing a real deal, full feature length horror film of Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory. I would love to do something like that. I mean, there's just so many things that the Oompa Loompas, the children, the crazy candy maker, is that what he's making? I don't know. That would be something really fun to dive into.
It's funny that you mentioned that because, like, right before...
You do it?
No, I totally want it. Well, see, right before we started filming Terrifier 2, I got approached to play Wonka in the first national tour of Willy Wonka. And I was like, I can't do it. I'm about to start filming Terrifier 2, and then the pandemic happened, so that tour was only on the road for like 3 weeks, and it got shut down. So I was like, I would love to play like some kind of crazy version of Wonka. That would be fun.
Who the fuck said you wouldn't be Wonka? Now we know you can be sure you're an Oompa Loompa, pal.
It's all
I'd be like Hugh Grant.
But no singing and no talking.
Damn it! But I think there's also another one you probably know about that I would like to do, because we just released Joker's Loud recently. So, of course, as a character, I've wanted to play forever. So like that's why we kind of let's kind of do like Joker in like Batman world with more of a horror vibe to it all, and especially with that character. It's like I even understand like years ago Kevin Smith wanted to do like some kind of Batman horror film set in Arkham Asylum. I'm like, oh my god, there's so much you can do there. That's my dream. But yeah. A scream is a wish your heart makes.
All right, any more questions? Let's wrap it up. Give them a round of applause, guys. They're keeping indie horror alive.
How about a round of applause for our awesome moderator? Just bumped up to the top of the taxi list for Screamboat 2.
I'm not just a moderator, I'm also a part of the Terra fam. So come see us. We're over there. Come talk to us. We'll answer any questions you've got. And how many of you are coming to the screening tonight? Yeah, okay, it's good. Let's pack the house and make the buzz grow. Right? Thanks, y'all.
Thank you all so much. See you tonight.
Awesome.